What's going on, everybody? Welcome into episode 9 of the MudWatch Sports Podcast on this Friday, October 11th, 2024. I'm your host, Zach Malamud. What a time it is to be a New York sports fan, and there's only one place to start, as both the Yankees and the Mets are on to the League Championship Series for their respective conferences. And when you look at it, let's start off with the New York Yankees, who grabbed a 3-1 victory in Game 4 of the ALDS yesterday against the Kansas City Royals to close out the Royals and send them home, as Kansas City fought hard and gave the Yankees some trouble, but the Yankees still get a comfortable 3-1 series win in the end. Like I said, closing it out in Game 4 last night. They got a big win in Game 3 the night before, a 3-2 win for the Yankees. But let's talk about this 3-1 win for New York, as the story in this one had to be Gerrit Cole, who came in after his Game 1 start, and he struggled in Game 1, just did not have the right stuff, and the Royals were able to get to him in that Game 1 in the Bronx. And all of a sudden, he comes back. He wanted the ball back. A lot of the Yankees were saying he wanted to make up for that Game 1 and show what he really has. How about 7 innings strong, 6 hits, 1 earned run, 4 strikeouts, no walks. But the 7 innings strong with only 1 run allowed is the story for the Yankees in this one. And I think when you go into a big game like that, you have to rely on your ace, and he did everything possible to make sure that the Yankees were in a comfortable lead. And credit to the Yankee lineup, as in the top of the first, it was Gleyber Torres who started the game on the first pitch with a lead-off double. And Juan Soto was able to bring him home with an RBI single just after that. Torres also added an RBI single in the 5th. Stanton added an RBI single in the 6th. And it was 3-0 Yankees at that point, and that's when things got just a little bit uncomfortable, as Pasquantino was able to bring in Bobby Witt Jr. with a RBI double in the 6th inning. And then Kyle Isbell in the 7th inning just gave one a ride just short of the right field wall. But Gerrit Cole gets out of the jam overall. This game could have been tied with just that one swing by Kyle Isbell. But, I mean, the Yankees had plenty of times throughout this series where they got on the end of one and could have got one out, but it just did not fall their way. So I think the Royals in this one, they got the taste of that, same as the Yankees did for a lot of this series. So when you look at it in the end, Gerrit Cole was the story, and great job by him. But how about this lineup, and how about this bullpen? I'll start off with the lineup, who, I mean, you rely on a guy like Aaron Judge, and you rely on Juan Soto, but Giancarlo Stanton just seems to find a way each and every postseason to be the big man in the lineup and help the Yankees out and get them over the line. He's batting .375 right now, and we're just 1 series in 4 games, batting .375, and another RBI yesterday that Kansas City was just not able to handle him once they got back to Kansas City. I mean, the last 2 games, it's been the Giancarlo Stanton show. After games 1 and 2, it didn't seem like Stanton was really too much involved in this series. But look at that. And games 3 and 4, he steps up, gets those RBIs, gets the home run in Game 3, of course, to give the Yankees the win. But 2 for 3 yesterday with no runs, no home runs, just the RBI single. And that's just what the Yankees need. Get on base and allow the next guy to come up in the lineup and help out, extend the lead, and make things comfortable for your bullpen. And now, speaking of the bullpen, it's really been the same 3 guys with Tommy Kahnle, Clay Holmes, Luke Weaver. Tommy Kahnle obviously was with the Yankees back in 2017 as well as 2019 when the Yankees went to the LCS. Clay Holmes, you look at what he's been able to do in this postseason so far, and has been able to do at the end of the month of September, and the change that the Yankees made, taking him out of that closer role. Obviously, that Texas series is still at the beginning of September, so a quick turnaround for Clay Holmes and he's been perfect. He's been rock solid for the Yankees in the last almost month or so. As we get now into the postseason, he's just been really, really strong, and they bring him in to just get some outs, and he's done that very easily. Nothing too crazy about it. Don't make the inning too crazy on his defense or anything. He has been lights out, and another strikeout yesterday in one inning pitch. No hits, no earned runs, no walks, just the one strikeout, but he gets those outs, and on 10 pitches, he's really, really reliable right now in this postseason. So you have the experience in Canley from years past. Clay Holmes has been absolutely lights out in the last month, and Luke Weaver is the closer that the Yankees have wanted for 10 years or so. As we think back to the Mariano days, the Yankees obviously had those years with Chapman, and a lot of the Yankee faithful was kind of on the edge of their seat when Chapman was on the mound. I feel like when Luke Weaver is on the mound, Yankee fans just sit in peace. They are calm as could be, and Luke Weaver makes a tough situation look very, very easy. Got 2 strikeouts yesterday, got the fly out to center field to end it. And I think when you look at Luke Weaver, he has been a huge, huge difference for this Yankees team in the last month, definitely since they moved Holmes out of the closer role. But when you look at Luke Weaver, it's just dominance. And that's exactly what you need in a closer, going after the opposing hitters, making them uncomfortable, and he attacks them right away. He's been an animal so far in this postseason, and obviously in the last month. What a performance in this divisional series by Luke Weaver. 3 games, no problem. Nothing allowed, and was in a jam in game 3 in the 8th inning that he just made it work and found a way to get out of it in the end. Of course, then yesterday it comes in the 9th and just makes it look very, very easy with those couple of strikeouts. I think Luke Weaver is the game changer right now for the Yankees. Of course, they have to give him a lead, though. I think when you rely on Luke Weaver too much when it comes to the middle of the order, yes, he will be fine because he seems like he's getting through anything. But if you're the Yankees, you want him in that closer role. You want him finishing things off. Just give him a lead, and he will take you to the end. I think that's what the Yankees need. If they're relying on Luke Weaver for the rest of the postseason, they definitely need to have a bunch of leads for him and make things comfortable. Either way, he's rock solid. So what a performance by Weaver yesterday. Performance by Holmes, and Canley's been strong all postseason so far. So the Yankees move on to the ALCS for the first time in a couple of years, back in 22, where they got swept by the Astros. Obviously, new team and trying to make things different in the last some odd years or so for this Yankees team as they head back to the ALCS. So they win the series against the Royals, 3-1 win over Kansas City, and a 3-1 series win overall. 3-1 win in game 4, 3-2 in game 3, and a 3-1 series win for the New York Yankees that they head back to the Bronx. They'll face the winner of the Tigers and Guardians. Game 5 of that will be on Saturday, and game 1 of the ALCS will start on Monday night in the Bronx. Let's take things across the bridge as the New York Mets are also on to the League Championship Series. They defeat their division rival, Philadelphia Phillies, 4-1 in game 4 of the NLDS. They win the series 3-1 in the DS, and now they move on to the NLCS where they'll face the winner of the Dodgers and the Padres. That one taking place tonight, game 5, and that one should be a good one. But the Mets beat the Phillies behind Francisco Lindor's 6th inning grand slam. I mean, 1 out in the 6th and bases loaded. Francisco Lindor up to bat. I think the Mets always knew Francisco Lindor was there to come up with the big moments, and he made a big moment out of this one. Maybe one of the best moments in Mets postseason history. He could have an argument for it. What a grand slam, and what a time to do it, and to knock off the Phillies in the end. I mean, the Mets were really, really solid all series long, and there were some times where it didn't look as pretty. But that's okay, because they find a way Their pitching was dominant throughout. And you just look at the averages on the other side for Philly. I mean, some of their top hitters, of course, Bryce Harper batted 333 and Nick Castellanos batted 412. But after that, it was nothing. Kyle Schwarber batted 125. Trey Turner batted 200. I mean, when you look at Alec Boehm at 0.77, JT Realmuto did not even have a hit in this one. Bryson Stott batted 182. Just ridiculous stuff from the Mets pitching, and they had another great performance by Jose Quintana. And when you look at what Quintana was able to do the other night, 5 innings pitched, 2 hits allowed, no earned runs, and 6 strikeouts. 2 hits. I mean, that's great stuff from Jose Quintana. And yes, the Phillies were able to put up a run, but when you look at it, Jose Quintana comes in after Manaea the night before. The Mets just making it look easy right now with their rotation and the ability to rely on their bullpen as well. Garrett, Peterson, and Diaz all came in. Peterson had a great performance in this one, ended up getting the win out of it. 2 1/3, 2 hits allowed, no earned runs, and a strikeout. So relying on a pitcher, a starting pitcher, to come in out of the bullpen, he was really, really solid. And it just shows that the Mets have a ton of guys they can rely on right now, and they're feeling really, really good. Edwin Diaz, of course, that had to feel good, getting the save, an inning, and 2 strikeouts. No earned runs, no hits in the end for Edwin Diaz. So when you look at it overall, the Mets deserve to win this series, clearly. I mean, they batted way better than the Phillies did in the end. Guys like Lindor, Vientos, Nimmo, even Alonso have all been really, really solid throughout this postseason. And the Mets' ability to get production from the bottom of the lineup. I mean, you look at Tyrone Taylor got a hit in this one, but each one of Marte, Taylor, and Alvarez got on base. And that's exactly what you need. Send it to the next guy. And Francisco Lindor, of course, was the next guy with that grand slam. So when you look at it for the Mets, unbelievable series for them. They are going to have to face probably the tougher test in the next round as they go up against the winner of Padres-Dodgers, which is tonight, Game 5. So tune into that one. But when you look at this Mets team, it just seems like whoever they play, they don't need to be worried. They just have to play their game. And if they play their game to the best of their ability, they will get over the line because they just keep finding a way. There's something magical about this group, and they continue to find ways to win games and rack up wins in the postseason. And credit to the Mets, who really were down and out for a lot of the start of this season and really turned things around, and look where they are now into the NLCS. Met fans are insane right now. They're going insane and rightfully so, feeling really good about their team. So the Mets win 4-1 in Game 4 of the NLDS. They win the series against the Phillies 3-1. Don't know how many expected that one, just a cruising in the NLDS. But the Mets get it done. They're on to the NLCS. What a performance by New York. And Game 1 of their NLCS series will start on Sunday, wherever they are on the West Coast, Padres or Dodgers. We go from the excitement in baseball on to football, as we do have NFL games this weekend, and postseason baseball not the only thing on right now in the middle of fall, as the Jets take on the Bills on Monday night. And obviously we'll preview this on Monday as well, but the Jets come in at 2-3, Bills come in at 3-2. Of course, the noise of Robert Saleh being fired during the week this week for the Jets and Jeff Ulbrich taking over. They actually relieved Nathaniel Hackett from his play calling duties, and that should be interesting as the Jets just get a new face in there calling plays for Aaron Rodgers. And when you look at this one on Monday night, the Jets just 1 win away from being in first place in the AFC East. And when you look at this one overall, Bills come in as 2.5-point favorites, and it's a 40.5 total right now. I think when you look at this Jets team, they needed something to light a fire under their belly. And I think when you look at the coaching change and just switching things around on offense. That's what the Jets needed overall, and I think it could help them heading into this one. The Bills obviously coming off of two losses back-to-back weeks, Baltimore and Houston, and now they have to go on the road again in a divisional matchup. So when you look at it for the Jets, they should feel pretty good coming into this one. I know that sitting at 2-3 and obviously everything going on, but they should feel confident that they can get the Bills at the right time here and beat them up at home. So when you look at it for the Jets, I would say the big thing for Aaron Rodgers is being able to feel comfortable in the pocket and just get his top weapons involved. Breece Hall's been invisible for the last couple of weeks, and I know that he's played good defenses in both Denver and Minnesota, but they got to get him going as you go up against a Buffalo defense that's been pretty stingy so far this year. They need to still find ways to get Breece Hall going because he's one of the most talented players on this offense, along with Garrett Wilson. And Wilson had a great game last week. However, there's still room for improvement between him and Rodgers as his top weapon. Needs to continue to do that and be consistent on it. But also there were some incompletions still that him and Rodgers need to figure it out. And of course they're not perfect there, but they still need to be better and get to that peak level. And if they do that, they could have a good chance to beat up on the Bills in this one. I think when you look at the Bills coming in, couple injuries or a lot of injuries, excuse me. James Cook sitting at questionable right now. Khalil Shakir is also questionable. And obviously all of those things can change with this game being on Monday night. But if the Bills are banged up and some of their top weapons are not really healthy, I think this Jets defense can cause Josh Allen and the Bills offense trouble in this one. Of course, you rely on the Jets defense to keep the scoring low, and they've done that pretty much all season long and held their opponent's offense to low scoring. And I think in the end, that helps a guy like Aaron Rodgers feel more comfortable that it doesn't have to be all out for this Jets offense. It just needs to be good enough. And I think that in the end is the difference between a win and a loss for the Jets and eliminating what happened last week for Rodgers, those 3 interceptions. You're probably not going to see that too often, maybe ever again from Aaron Rodgers, but the Jets need to be better overall, and they know that. And bringing in the new coach, bringing in a new OC or a new play caller in the end, that's very big for the Jets right now. And I think it should be a good one as the Bills take on the Jets Monday Night Football. We'll preview this on Monday as well. Bills come in at 3-2. Jets come in at 2-3. A huge game in the AFC East at MetLife Stadium. And on the other side of MetLife, it's the New York Giants sitting at 2-3, taking on the Cincinnati Bengals at 1-4. This one taking place 24 hours before at MetLife Stadium. Both teams playing at home this week, and an 8:20 start on Sunday night for the Giants, who will be without Malik Neighbors for this one. Officially ruled out earlier today, and that's a big loss for New York. However, they went to Seattle last week and dominated the Seahawks, and yes, that looks even better now that San Fran was also able to get their number. In the end, Giants without Neighbors, and they were without Devin Singletary in that one. Singletary still questionable for this one. Giants still found a way to find a win, and that is because of their defense. Their defense has been really strong and proved the other day against Seattle that they're one of the top units in the NFL, no matter what. Even with all the injuries, whatever, they are very gritty and a tough group to go up against. So it shouldn't be easy for Joe Burrow and this offense. And the Bengals coming off of another loss, obviously a heartbreaker in overtime on their home field to Baltimore, a game that Cincinnati really had in the bag, and all of a sudden Baltimore just chipped away at it and found ways to come back. And the Bengals, of course, they missed field goal in overtime from Evan McPherson, then leads to Baltimore coming the other way, and an easy one as Derrick Henry ran down the sideline. Game-winning field goal by Justin Tucker in the end. The Bengals 1-4, of course, all the noise right now. but the Bengals don't really entirely deserve to be 1-4 in my mind. I think when you look at their schedule, like they've played really, really tough opponents and just come out on the wrong end of a close game in the end. The one you look at is New England and say, all right, well, they should have won that one. Week one didn't have their top guys on 100%, and I think they deserve a bit of a break on that one. Of course, they still deserve they need to win that game on their home field, but even so, not 100% healthy, and it's week one. The other games, though, at Kansas City, lose a heartbreaker, lose by one. Washington, yes, their defense was not good in that one. Cincinnati, and yes, it was at home in prime time on Monday night, but when you look at this Washington team right now, I don't know who's stopping this Commanders team. It's very difficult to find a team to go up against a guy like Jaden Daniels, who's been absolutely fantastic so far this season. 38-33 loss on prime time in that one. And then, of course, they grabbed the win in Carolina, feeling a little bit comfortable and okay, let's head back home. And Baltimore, yeah, they lose it at the end, but Baltimore, arguably the favorite every single year in that AFC North. So when you look at it, they've had a tough schedule, and I think they can find ways to bounce back after that one. When you look at this Giants team and the injuries that they have coming in, the Bengals should feel confident that they can grab a win, and Vegas believes so as well, as they have the Bengals right now as 4-point favorites, total sitting at 47.5. So they're expecting a little bit more from the Bengals defense in this one, rather than the previous weeks where it's kind of been all out from the opposing offenses. But when you look at it in the end, the Bengals should win this one. And this is one that they need to have if they want any chance of really challenging for the postseason. If they drop one on the road to the Giants, like their confidence is at an all-time low. Of course, after these losses, they need to bounce back, and this is a winnable game considering the injuries for the Giants. And Daniel Jones, I think when you look at it from the other side, I've said it week after week, just play solid. Set your team up in good situations. Don't turn the ball over. He's been really, really good the last 3 weeks or so. And when you look at this Giants team and all the noise that comes in about Daniel Jones, I think he's proved the doubters wrong, and he's looked really, really good. Of course, Giants fans will want to turn those good performances into wins always, but even so, he's been very, very strong so far this season, in my opinion, and will look to do so again as they take on the Bengals. Giants coming in at 2-3. Bengals at 1-4. Bengals need a win in this one. It's an 8:20 start. Sunday Night Football at MetLife Stadium, and it should be a good one. And to finish things off today, it's another edition of a Sunday football preview. Each week, I'll pick 2 to 3 of the top games across the NFL slate and share my thoughts on them. Last week, I picked 2 games. I'm going to do the same thing again because I think there's really only 2 games that stand out in my mind in the NFL this week. And I have to start in the 1 o'clock window with a guy I just talked about. Jaden Daniels takes his 4-1 Washington Commanders on the road into Baltimore to take on the 3-2 Ravens. Ravens coming off that win in Cincinnati, an emotional one, and they find a way to get the job done. And look at that, Baltimore after the 0-2 start and the worrying signs coming in. 3 straight, 3 on the bounce, and they've dominated their opponents. They dominated Buffalo, and they found ways to beat Dallas. They dominated that game. Of course, Dallas found a way to come back and cut the deficit at the end. And then in the end, they come back against Cincinnati. Just shows how good this Baltimore team is in the end, and to not doubt them. They are the real deal, and of course, always one of the favorites to come out of the AFC each and every year, with Lamar Jackson and John Harbaugh leading the way for them. I look at this one and my mind immediately goes to the spread, as Baltimore sits as 7-point favorites right now. And I feel like the disrespect of this Commanders team may bite some people. I think when you look at this Commanders team and how strong they've been this season, I understand that they're opponents haven't been the strongest so far this season. And yes, they had the week one loss to Tampa Bay, and you could say, yeah, that's the toughest team they've played so far. But a gritty win against the Giants, a gritty win against the Bengals, where they pretty much dominated that Bengals defense, a dominant win on the road against Arizona, who beat, of course, San Francisco last week, barring, yes, that is not a fully healthy San Francisco in that one. And then they trounced Cleveland last week, 34-13 at home. I understand that Washington's opponents have not been as good as people would have liked, and it's not the sexy opponent in the end. But when you look at it, Baltimore has been, yes, very solid. I think the Commanders, though, can give them a run for their money at home in Baltimore. I think when you look at the Ravens so far this season, yeah, Vegas in week 2 gave them a run. And I think the Commanders could do so as well. So I'm actually going to pick the Commanders to cover this spread. It's a 7-point spread, and I think they're good enough, this offense, to create some fireworks. And really, when you look at the total, that stands out, 51.5, very high total. It proves to you that there's going to be offense in this one. The Ravens secondary has been woeful, one of the worst in the NFL so far this season through 5 weeks. And when you look at this Commanders offense, they're rolling right now. When you look at guys like Terry McLaurin and his partnership with Jaden Daniels that they've built in the last couple of weeks, really, really strong. And I think when you look at that, you say, all right, Commanders scored the most points in the NFL so far this season. Why can't they do it again? I understand it's a tough opponent. They're on the road. It's in Baltimore, a high-pressure game. But even so, they have looked very, very solid on offense, and the Ravens defense has not looked strong. So it's going to be a high-scoring one, and I think the over will end up hitting in this one. But I think the Commanders keep it closer than the spread is saying right now. I think they're a tough and gritty team, and Dan Quinn, the new head coach, will get his guys ready and have his guys ready to go up against this Ravens powerhouse. Brian Robinson Jr. is questionable in a game-time decision for this one. That would be a big loss for Washington if he can go. Obviously, controls things in the run game, and they may have to rely on Jaden Daniels and his feet a little bit more if Robinson can't go. But even so, I like the Commanders to cover this one. I think the Ravens will still win in the end on their home field, but a lot of disrespect for Washington right now, and I don't know how I completely feel about it. I don't know if it's completely warranted right now with that 4-1 record, but it's the Commanders and the Ravens. That one, 1 o'clock on Sunday. The other game I'm going to preview is a big one, 4:25, the primetime slot. The Dallas Cowboys at home, of course, at 4:25, sitting at 3-2 and feeling real good right now after a couple wins on the bounce against the Detroit Lions, sitting at 3-1, coming off of the bye week. Obviously, their last game was a couple weeks ago, Monday Night Football. They beat the Seattle Seahawks 42-29 in Detroit. And when you look at the Cowboys coming in, 20-15 win in New York against the Giants, 20-17 win in Pittsburgh against the Steelers. Two tough defenses, two tough teams to play against right now. And the Cowboys found ways to find a win. Of course, the late touchdown from Jalen Tolbert the other day against Pittsburgh was huge for those who stayed up for that one. Obviously ended really late due to the weather delay. But when you look at it for the Cowboys, couple wins, feeling really good. And yes, there's been injuries for Dallas so far this year, and that's really hurt the Cowboys in the end. And still some guys questionable. Guys like Trevon Diggs, Micah Parsons, all still questionable heading into this one. And for that reason, and of course the reason in the end that I think the Lions are the better team, they come in as 3-point favorites, and I think rightfully so. This offense is working very well right now. This defense is not working very well, and they have to clean up their secondary. Their run defense has been very strong. And I think when you look at that, they've been really, really dominant on the defensive line, have been terrible in the secondary. And maybe that's something that Dallas could take advantage of, the weakness in the secondary. However, Dallas's defense has not been as strong. Of course, I mentioned all the injuries, and this offense for the Lions is absolutely rolling. Yes, they got their first game over 30 points 1 week ago or a couple weeks ago against Seattle, putting up 42. Yes, it's been meh for after that in terms of point totals, 20, 16, 26, as well as 24. But this offense, it's hard to stop them when they're in control of a game. And I think that's what's going to happen here. I think the Lions will take control of this one, establish their run game, and take advantage of the injuries on the defensive side for Dallas. Of course, they come in as 3-point favorites, like I said, total sitting at 52.5. So it proves that both defenses are really struggling so far this year, and the total being really high. Of course, the Lions game, they always get high totals because their defense, I mentioned the weakness of their defense so far this season, but their offense has been really, really strong. So I'm going to pick the Lions, and I'm going to pick them to cover as well, the 3-point spread, and I think the Lions just are the better team in the end than the Dallas Cowboys, who, yes, they've looked good the last couple of weeks, but I don't think they faced a team like a Lions team who's feeling really good, sitting at 3-1 and really one of the dominant teams in the NFC so far this season, and a team that really has Super Bowl aspirations in the end, a team that could definitely win the NFC this year, and that's one of their goals. I think they go into Dallas and beat the Cowboys. Cowboys have been 0-2 so far on the season on their home field, and getting away from the noise in Dallas is something that the Cowboys are maybe hoping for after those two losses to Baltimore and New Orleans in weeks 2 and 3. So I'm going to pick the Lions to beat the Cowboys. That one, 425 on Sunday, and it should be a good one. Tune into that one. But that'll do it for episode 9 of the MudWatch Sports Podcast. Please subscribe below. I've been Zach Malamud. Thanks for watching, and talk to you all on Monday.